Most men think impact comes from grand gestures, from saying the perfect line, from proving something again and again until she finally believes it. That's the lie. Real impact doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from becoming different. A permanent psychological mark is not created by chasing, pleasing, or performing. It's created when your presence changes how she sees herself, how she feels around you, and how she remembers you long after you're gone. This isn't about manipulation. It's about mastery of yourself first and then of the moment. Here's the truth most men never hear. Women don't remember what you said as much as they remember how you made them feel about themselves. If being around you made her feel calm, seen, safe, inspired, grounded, and alive all at once, you didn't just impress her, you imprinted on her. That kind of imprint doesn't fade easily because it's emotional, not logical. Logic can be replaced. Emotions linger. The first thing you must do is stop trying to be chosen and start acting like someone who chooses. Desperation repels because it communicates scarcity. Calm selectiveness attracts because it communicates value. When you don't rush to respond, don't over-explain, don't justify your standards, and don't beg for attention, you quietly send a powerful message. My life is full. You are welcome in it, but you are not the center of it. That alone creates tension, curiosity, and respect. Respect is the foundation of any lasting psychological impact. You leave a mark when your words align with your actions. Consistency is rare and rarity is unforgettable. If you say you'll call, you call. If you say you value honesty, you practice it even when it's uncomfortable. If you say you respect yourself, you enforce boundaries without anger or apology. Most people talk. Very few live what they say. When you do, she doesn't just hear you, she feels grounded around you. And that grounded feeling becomes addictive. Another key is emotional leadership. This doesn't mean control. It means stability. When situations get awkward, tense, or uncertain, you remain calm. You don't panic when plans change. You don't get rattled by moods. You don't chase reassurance. Your emotional steadiness becomes an anchor. Around you, her nervous system relaxes. She laughs more. She opens up more. She becomes more herself. That's not something she can fake or force with someone else. That's something she associates with you. Silence is one of the most underrated tools. Men who talk too much kill mystery. Men who fill every pause reveal insecurity. When you're comfortable with silence, when you don't rush to impress, when you listen more than you speak, she leans in emotionally and mentally. Silence gives her space to project, to wonder, to feel. And feelings are where memories are formed. You also leave a mark by seeing her beyond the surface. Not just complimenting her looks, but recognizing patterns, values, and contradictions. When you say something like, "You act confident, but I can tell you care deeply about getting things right," it hits differently. It tells her you're paying attention. It tells her she's not invisible to you. Being truly seen is rare, and when it happens, it's unforgettable. Purpose is another pillar. A man without direction unconsciously looks for meaning and attention. A man with purpose invites others into his world without needing them to complete it. When she sees you committed to something bigger than her, your craft, your mission, your growth, it triggers admiration. Admiration lasts longer than attraction. Attraction can fade. Admiration evolves. Don't try to be perfect. Be authentic and accountable. When you make a mistake, own it calmly. No defensiveness, no excuses. Accountability creates trust, and trust deepens emotional investment. Most people deflect blame. When you don't, you separate yourself instantly. You also leave a permanent mark by knowing when to walk away. This is where most men fail. They tolerate disrespect, mixed signals, and emotional chaos out of fear of losing her. But when you calmly step back the moment your standards are crossed, you do two things. First, you protect your self-respect. Second, you shock her expectations. That moment replays in her mind because it contradicts what she's used to. Strength without aggression is unforgettable. Presence matters more than proximity. When you're with her, be with her. No half attention, no constant phone checking, no distracted listening. When your attention is focused, she feels important without you saying a word. And when you leave fully. No lingering, no over-texting, no emotional crumbs. That clean energy creates contrast, and contrast creates memory. Humor used correctly is another imprinting force. Not self-deprecating, not sarcastic, but grounded and playful. Humor that shows confidence and awareness lightens emotional space. It creates shared moments. Shared laughter bonds faster than shared struggle. Finally, you must understand this. The strongest psychological mark is left when you inspire growth without demanding change. When being around you naturally makes her want to be better, calmer, more honest, more aligned, you become associated with elevation. She doesn't just miss you, she misses who she was when she was with you. This is not about tricks or tactics. It's about becoming a man whose energy shifts rooms, whose absence is felt, and whose presence is remembered. When you stop chasing impact and start embodying it, something changes. She may move on, she may meet others, but there will be moments, quiet, unexpected moments, where she compares them to you and realizes something is missing. And here's the hook you need to remember: the goal isn't to stay in her mind forever. It's to leave such a strong standard behind that even when you're gone, you continue to influence what she accepts, what she desires, and what she can never fully forget. What most men don't realize is that the deepest psychological marks are often left in moments where nothing dramatic happens on the surface. It's in the ordinary moments, the pauses, the way you react when there is no script. When she expects you to react emotionally and you don't. When she expects pressure and you give space. When she expects validation and you give understanding instead. These moments confuse the old patterns in her mind, and confusion, when paired with safety, creates fascination. You leave a mark when you don't need to win every interaction. When you allow her to have her opinion without trying to dominate it. When you disagree calmly and without the need to be right. That calm disagreement tells her you are secure. Secure men don't argue to prove worth. They state truth and allow others to choose how to respond. That kind of confidence rewires expectations because it's so rare. Another powerful imprint comes from how you handle emotional vulnerability, both hers and yours. When she opens up, you don't rush to fix. You don't minimize. You don't turn it into a story about yourself. You listen, you acknowledge, and you let silence do its work. She feels heard, not managed. And when you choose to open up, you do it with strength, not emotional dumping. You share lessons, not wounds. You show depth without asking her to rescue you. That balance creates trust without burden. Time is also a factor. You don't overstay. You don't linger just because you can. You leave conversations on a high note. You end dates before energy drops. You allow her to miss you. Scarcity, when natural and not forced, intensifies memory. People remember what they don't fully consume. Your body language matters more than your words. Slow movements, relaxed posture, steady eye contact. These signals communicate dominance without aggression. They tell her you are comfortable in your skin. Comfort is contagious. Around you, she feels less rushed, less anxious, more present. And presence is addictive in a distracted world. You also leave a psychological mark by not taking things personally. When she tests, pulls back, or has emotional fluctuations, you don't internalize it. You respond with clarity, or you give space without resentment. That emotional maturity separates you from men who react impulsively. Over time, she associates you with peace instead of drama. Another overlooked element is unpredictability, not chaos, but depth. You're consistent in values, but not boring in expression. One day thoughtful and reflective, another day playful and spontaneous. You don't reveal everything at once. Layers create intrigue. Intrigue keeps the mind engaged long after the interaction ends. You must also be willing to let her go internally before she ever leaves physically. Attachment creates anxiety, detachment creates freedom. When you enjoy her without clinging to outcomes, she feels it. That freedom invites her closer because it removes pressure. Ironically, the less you try to hold on, the stronger the imprint becomes. You leave a mark by how you handle endings. Whether it's a conversation, a phase, or the entire connection, you exit with dignity. No bitterness. No dramatic speeches. No emotional bargaining. Just calm clarity. Endings shape memory more than beginnings. A strong ending echoes. And here's something most men never think about: you leave a permanent psychological mark when you become the reference point for how she wants to feel. Not how she wants to be treated on paper, but how she wants to feel emotionally safe, excited, respected, alive, understood. Once you become that reference, every future comparison works in your favor, even when you're not there. This level of impact can't be faked. It's the byproduct of inner work, self-respect, and emotional discipline. It comes from knowing who you are and being willing to lose anyone who doesn't align with that. When you live from that place, you don't need to force significance. Significance follows you. And the conclusion is simple but powerful. If you want to leave a permanent psychological mark on her, stop trying to be unforgettable and start being unshakable. Because the man who is solid in himself doesn't just pass through someone's life, he quietly redefines what they believe is possible. And that realization tends to surface long after he's already walked away. There is another layer to this that almost no one talks about, and it's the way you handle power without needing to display it. True psychological impact is created when strength is felt, not announced. When you don't posture, when you don't compete, when you don't try to dominate conversations or situations, you simply exist with certainty. That quiet certainty creates a contrast so sharp that it lingers. She may not be able to explain it, but she feels different around you, and feelings without clear explanations tend to last the longest. You also leave a mark by refusing to rush emotional intimacy. Most men try to fast forward connection. They want closeness now, reassurance now, exclusivity now. But when you allow things to unfold naturally, when you're patient without becoming distant, she begins to invest emotionally on her own. Investment creates attachment. What people invest in, they protect and remember. You don't need to pull her closer. You give her the space to step closer by choice. Your standards quietly shape her behavior, not because you demand change, but because you don't reward misalignment. You don't entertain disrespect with attention. You don't reward inconsistency with emotional access. You don't argue about your boundaries, you simply live by them. Over time, she adjusts, not out of fear of losing you, but out of respect for how you carry yourself. That respect becomes internalized, and even if you're no longer present, the standard remains. Another deep imprint is created through emotional contrast. You don't provide constant stimulation, you allow calm. You allow stillness. In a world of chaos, notifications, and emotional volatility, being a place of calm becomes unforgettable. She associates you with relief, with exhale, with grounding. And once someone becomes your emotional refuge, they are never easily replaced. You also leave a mark by not needing to be understood by everyone. When you don't explain yourself endlessly, when you don't seek validation for your choices, when you're okay being misunderstood by those who don't see your depth, you signal inner authority. Inner authority is magnetic because it suggests self-trust, and self-trust is the foundation of trust from others. Your discipline shows even when no one is watching. How you treat people who can't give you anything, how you speak about those who are absent, how you manage frustration privately. These things seep into your energy. She may not consciously notice them, but she feels the integrity behind your actions. Integrity leaves a psychological signature because it feels safe and rare. Another powerful factor is your relationship with uncertainty. When you don't need guarantees, when you're comfortable not knowing exactly where things are going, you create a sense of spaciousness. Spaciousness allows desire to breathe. Clinginess suffocates desire, curiosity feeds it. When she feels curious instead of pressured, her mind stays engaged even in your absence. You also leave a mark by not outsourcing your happiness. When your joy doesn't depend on her mood, her attention, or her availability, you become emotionally independent. Emotional independence is attractive because it removes obligation. She doesn't feel responsible for your well-being. She feels invited into your world, not tasked with maintaining it. Your ability to enjoy moments without trying to capture them is another subtle imprint. You don't need constant photos, constant proof, constant documentation. You're present, fully. That presence turns moments into memories instead of performances, and memories tied to genuine presence carry emotional weight. You must also understand that walking away internally before you have to externally is crucial. When you know you'll be okay without her, you interact from abundance, not fear. Fear-based energy always leaks. Abundance-based energy calms and attracts. This internal shift changes everything about how you speak, listen, touch, and respond. And here's something uncomfortable but true. You leave a permanent psychological mark when you don't rescue her from her own lessons. When you allow her to face consequences, when you don't over-function emotionally, when you don't become the solution to every problem, growth happens in discomfort. When she grows around you instead of being saved by you, she associates you with strength, not dependency. You also leave a mark by honoring your own rhythm. You don't text back instantly just to prove interest. You don't delay artificially to seem busy. You respond when it aligns. Authentic rhythm builds trust. Games eventually reveal insecurity. Authenticity over time reveals confidence. There is power in how you touch moments lightly. You don't cling, you don't grip, you don't overstay emotional scenes. You know when to step back. Knowing when to step back shows wisdom. Wisdom leaves a deeper impression than intensity. And finally, the deepest psychological mark is left when your absence teaches more than your presence ever could. When she realizes that the calm she felt, the clarity she experienced, the standard she rose to, all happened because of the way you showed up. That realization often comes late, quietly, and without warning. So here is the conclusion that ties it all together. Leaving a permanent psychological mark isn't about controlling emotions, creating obsession, or forcing attachment. It's about becoming a man whose energy rewires expectations, whose presence elevates, and whose absence clarifies value. Because when you live with self-respect, emotional discipline, and quiet strength, you don't just become hard to forget, you become the silent benchmark against which future experiences are measured, and that kind of influence tends to echo long after the connection itself has ended.